Hey guys, we are right in the middle of our reading, is where I stopped in your day 6 stay at home work. So this is day 7 stay at home work. And we are going to finish the reading today, and then we're going to assign the questions that need to go in your journal, plus which ones need to be uploaded into Google Classroom. So in our story yesterday, Anne Marie was on her way to take this mysterious packet to Uncle Henrik, and she's wandering through this spooky woods and trying to get to Uncle Henrik without being seen. And as our story ended, or our reading ended yesterday, she is confronted by some German soldiers and 2 rather vicious looking dogs. And we know that they're vicious because the textual evidence supports that. It says that they were there in front of her, 4 armed soldiers, and with them, straining at taut leashes, were 2 large dogs, their eyes glittering and their lips curled. So they weren't like wagging their tail like, woohoo, pet me. They were on leashes, pulling those leashes tight. That's what taut means, like tight. And so the author is building this sense of suspense for us as far as what's going to happen now. So we are on page 113, chapter 15. And it's titled, My Dogs Smell Meat. Anne Marie's mind raced, and she remembered what her mother had said. If anyone stops you, you must pretend to be nothing more than a silly little girl. Well, she stared at the soldiers, and she remembered how she had stared at the others, frightened, when they had stopped her on the street. Kirsty hadn't been frightened. Kirsty had been, well, nothing more than a silly little girl, angered because the soldiers had touched her hair that afternoon. She had known nothing of danger, and the soldiers had been amused by her. Anne Marie willed herself with all her being to behave as Kirsty would. Good morning, she said carefully to the soldiers. They looked her up and down in silence. Both dogs were tense and alert. The 2 soldiers who held the leashes wore thick gloves. What are you doing here? One of them asked. Well, Anne Marie held out her basket with the thick loaf of bread visible. My Uncle Henrik forgot his lunch, and I'm taking it to him. He's a fisherman. The soldiers were looking around. Their eyes glanced behind her and scanned the bushes on either side. Are you alone? One asked. And Anne Marie nodded. Yes, she said. And one of the dogs growled. But she noticed that both dogs were looking at the lunch basket. One soldier stepped forward, the other, and the two holding the dogs remained where they were. You came out before daybreak just to bring a lunch? Why doesn't your uncle eat fish? What would Kirsty reply? And Anne Marie tried to giggle the way her sister might. Uncle Henrik doesn't even like fish, she said, laughing. He says he sees too much of it and smells too much of it. Anyway, he won't eat it raw. And she made a face. Well, I suppose he would if he were starving, but Uncle Henrik always has bread and cheese for lunch. Well, keep chattering, she told herself, as Kirsty would, a silly little girl. I like fish, she went on. I like it the way my mother cooks it. Sometimes she rolls it in breadcrumbs and... The soldier reached forward and grabbed the crisp loaf of bread from the basket. He examined it carefully. Then he broke it in half, pulling the 2 halves apart with his fist. That would enrage Kirsty, she knew. Don't, she said angrily. That's Uncle Henrik's bread. My mother baked it. The soldier ignored her, and he tossed the 2 halves of the loaf to the ground, 1 half in front of each dog. They consumed it, each snapping at the bread and gulping it so that it was gone in an instant. Have you seen anyone in the woods? The soldier barked the question at her. No, only you. Anne Marie stared at him. What are you doing in the woods anyway? You're making me late. Uncle Henrik's boat will leave before I get there with his lunch. or what's left of his lunch. Well, the soldier picked up the wedge of cheese and he turned it over in his hand. He turned to the three behind him and asked them something in their own language. And one of them answered, "None," in a bored tone. And Anne-Marie recognized the word. The man had replied, "No." He'd probably been asked, Anne-Marie thought, "Do you want this?" Or perhaps, "Should I give this to the dogs?" The soldier continued to hold the cheese and he tossed it back and forth between his hands. Anne-Marie gave an exasperated sigh. "Could I go now, please?" she asked impatiently. The soldier reached for the apple. He noted its brown spots and made a face of disgust. "No meat?" he asked, glancing at the basket and the napkin that lay in its bottom. Anne-Marie gave him a withering look. "You know we have no meat," she said insolently. "Your army eats all of Denmark's meat." "Please, please," she implored in her mind, "don't lift the napkin." Why did she not want them to lift the napkin? Think a minute. That's right. Under the napkin is the package to Uncle Henrik. And she doesn't really know what the package is, but the way the soldiers are acting, they would open the packet. Well, the soldier laughed, and he dropped the bruised apple on the ground, and one of the dogs leaned forward, pulling at the leash, and sniffed the apple and stepped back. But both dogs still looked intently at the basket, their ears alert, their mouths open, saliva glistening on their smooth pink gums. "My dogs smell meat," the soldier said. "They smell squirrels in the woods," Anne-Marie responded. "You should take them hunting." The soldier reached forward with the cheese in one hand, as if he were going to return it to the basket, but he didn't. Instead, he pulled out the flowered cotton napkin. Anne-Marie froze. "Your uncle has a pretty little lunch," the soldier said scornfully, crumpling the napkin around the cheese in his hand. "Like a woman," he added with contempt. Then his eyes locked on the basket. He handed the cheese and napkin to the soldier beside him. "What's that there in the bottom?" he asked in a different, tenser voice. What would Kirsty do? And Anne-Marie stamped her foot, and suddenly, to her own surprise, she began to cry. "I don't know," she said, her voice choked. "My mother's going to be angry that you stopped me and made me late. Or you completely ruined Uncle Henrik's lunch. So no, now he'll be mad at me too." What can we sticky note? Look at your questions. And what can we add for our questions today? So sticky note, we don't have sticky notes, sorry. I'd like you to write on your Team Talk page numbers and paragraphs where you're going to get your textual evidence from. I'm going to give you a moment. All right, so some of you may still be working on that, and that's fine. But I am going to go ahead and tell you what I need you to upload today. You are going to put 1 through 4 in your notebooks. And you really need to do that because when I get back to school, like I said, we will be checking these, or I will be checking these. There's no we in there, unless I got a frog in my pocket, so that I can kind of see what your thought processes were as you maneuvered through all of them. So today, I'm looking for my Team Talk here. You know for sure to circle number 4. That one is a given. I'm going to make myself some notes for myself. And let's do 3. I think that's a really good one too. I was struggling between 2 and 3, but I feel like number 2 is a right there answer. It's like, I would want you to tell me why Anne-Marie acts like a silly little girl in front of the soldiers. Well, you could say, one, Mama told her to, but that would not be complete. So, sorry, I need to shut up before I give you answers. So, that one, don't say because Mama told her to. But I really like number 3. Explain how the author shows that the soldiers are suspicious. It's going to make you think just a little bit. You'll have textual evidence to support it, but it will be a little more of a thinker than number 2 is. So 3 and 4 is what you're going to upload for me. And so we're looking at 10, about 11-minute video for here. All right, guys. Not seeing the weather, but it is last Thursday for you all when I'm doing this video, and it is beautiful outside. So I think I'm going to sit out on the porch, read my book for about, I don't know, an hour. Then I'll come back and we will do your day 8 video. See you in an hour.